introduction to the show, this first season did itself really well. I was engaged throughout the season and I wanted to see where things were going to go.
And in my opinion, the best part of the season, and probably the best part of Stranger Things in general, are the characters and the actors and actresses who played them.
But there are some visual effects that I thought looked fantastic, and there are actually some visual effects that were like, oh, what the heck? I don't want to watch this, I don't want to watch this.
It just makes you guys even more excited to see what is next for Stranger Things, because this is the beginning of the end, and season 5 is going to be the final season. It's going to be hard to say goodbye, but that's going to be a real big ride for Stranger Things season 5, I can tell you that.
Now, number 4 is 3, number 3 is 2, number 2 is 1, and number 1 is 4. Those are the seasons I have ranked. I think it's a masterful show with great characters, the performances are amazing, the comedy is hilarious, and I really cannot wait to see how the show is going to wrap up. Well guys, there it was. The final season of Stranger Things. Wow, I can't believe that this time has come already to say goodbye to an end of an era of a TV show that I've been reviewing for quite a few years now. So, I got my new hoodie. It's got the van in this very season. So, let's basically just roll the regular intro and let's give our thoughts for, in terms of the main Stranger Things series, the final full season Stranger Things review. Hey guys, it's Daniel here, and welcome to the first official review for 2026, the Filming Daniel Reviews Series 9. And also, in addition to that, welcome to the 300th video on my channel. Oh yeah, it's just shocking, I know. So how have I decided to start my new year of reviews? And why did I decide to make it the 300th video? And what have I picked as the 300th video? Well, I couldn't have picked a better start to the new year, yet end of an era kind of celebration video than to talk about the swan song to one of my favourite Netflix shows released on Netflix, of course, and the big final hurrah to this sci-fi, mystery, 80s, just everything awesome series that I've reviewed on this channel from 2020 until 2026, so nearly 6 years. So sit back, relax, and enjoy my review of the 5th and final season of Stranger Things. So, without giving any spoilers away, in Stranger Things 5, our familiar heroes in the Hawkins group that we've known and cared for years try to come together and come up with a plan to stop Vecna and the rest of the Upside Down after what he did to Hawkins last season. And That's basically what I'm going to say without giving any spoilers away. So yeah, this is the 5th and final season of Stranger Things, and I was looking forward to it. I was sad that it was coming to an end, but I was really excited to see the season. I'm surprised that it took a full year to film, and they've been really promoting that this was going to be epic, so I was waiting to see, okay, let's see how these characters wrapped up. And did this season do a fantastic job at wrapping up the story? For the most part, yes. For the most part, I think this was a very satisfying finish to a great Netflix show. Now, I do have problems with this season. I'm not going to deny that. I have major problems with this season. But I think it's a good season. I know it's kind of hit and miss amongst fans. But overall, I really enjoyed this season. But there are problems that I do have. But before we get into the problems, let's talk about what I loved. First off, the characters. For the most part, I still think these characters capture the same mannerisms, same likeable charm, and same sympathy as the rest of the seasons that they starred in. For the most part, I think these characters are still likeable and still memorable. I mean, there are a few occasions where the characters can get a bit annoying, and some of the actors aren't as charismatic as they usually are, but for the most part, I think the best characters this season, in my opinion, capture a lot of my attention. In my opinion, there are 2 standout characters and performances. First off, Jim Hopper, played by David Harbour, man. Every time I see him, he just loses himself in the role. He's always so captivating, he's always so charismatic, funny, but this season he is an absolute bad ass. Yeah, I'll try not to swear, but you can guess those, eh? He's absolutely awesome in the action segments of this season. Like, just the look of him as well, like the black jacket and boots, the long hair and gorgeous long beard. Like, I'm not trying to like come on or something, but that beard like makes him look so awesome, and it makes him feel like a huge action hero this season. And you can tell that he is trying to like recuperate time after season 4, because like he's definitely gained some of his weight back, because like it must have been torture for him in that Russian prison. But like going from that totally shaved head and face to this was just a major transformation, and he will do anything he can to protect Eleven and the people in Hawkins. He's very intelligent in what he does, and I also feel like he's definitely one of the smartest characters this season, that made most, in my opinion, of the smartest choices and had brains. I'll get to that, yeah. But Jim was fantastic, and I thought that it was most part very satisfying how they concluded him too. The other character that I actually loved this season, and I know people are hit and miss on this area, is Will, played by Noah Schnapp. This, in my opinion, is definitely probably my second favourite season for Will. Maybe. I mean, it's either this or season 2, but this season for Will, in my opinion, is where the character really came into his own as a protagonist. Because in my opinion, this is a very Will-centric season, and he goes through a lot as a character, including trying to create bonds with his friends and family, while trying to come up with a plan to stop Vecna's evil plan. But his motivation for this is very personal, especially with Vecna, because we saw in the trailers that Vecna and Will are supposed to have an interaction. That whole section of the season, without giving too much away, in my opinion is where most of the tension between hero and villain really kept me engaged, because Will is like honestly one of the biggest ones that was affected by Vecna's presence the most, because he was the one taken to the Upside Down in season 1. So his clash with Vecna this season is very personal, and he has so many emotional moments that honestly, like, Noah Schnapp, in my opinion, so well done at creating emotional scenes. Like whenever he cries or when he gets emotional, I get pulled into his scenes every time. And I know a lot of people aren't fond of like some of the character decisions they did with Will this season, especially this one speech that he gives later on, but I personally liked it. I thought it was a very emotional moment, it kept me engaged, and I love the characters surrounding him coming to his support in that scene. It was really well done, and Will, in my opinion, like for the most part coming off as like the main character this season, in my opinion works very well, because in my opinion this has to be his season that helps him come into his own as a protagonist, because it started with Will being a central focus, even if he wasn't in the first season that much, and you end the show with him being a central focus, and I thought that was a great idea. Dustin was very engaging as well, and you can feel his, like, emotional story throughout the season, because he's not himself after the death of Eddie, and him just trying to, you know, pick up the pieces to try to face off against Vecna and keeping his strength up. I couldn't help but really feel sorry for him this season, because I knew it wasn't himself, and I love the characters that surround him coming to his aid. I will admit that it did get a little annoying whenever he was bickering with Steve this season, but it did lead to some emotional moments between the two that, in my opinion, definitely recaptured the love that we had for their bond for the last few seasons to begin with. Lucas is another sympathetic character in terms of, like, big emotionally, because what happened with Max last season is really just, like, giving him so much torment, because he is given so much strength this time round to face off against Vecna. He's very awesome in heroics, and he will do whatever he can to protect his friends and family. But at the same time, you can tell that what happened with Max is killing him this season, and he's just, like, trying to do this in his spirit, and I thought it was satisfying, like, towards the last few episodes where his story concluded, and it just made me so happy with how they concluded Lucas's character. He was one of the major standouts this season. There is also a special character that we know very wholeheartedly that makes a return this season. I won't give away who it is, but, like, when that character showed up, I was just like, oh, thank goodness. Oh, there's that character. Where have you been? Where have you been? Again, won't give it away, but they show up at the end of episode 3. But what I will say, this character was amazing. They definitely have developed. They get a lot of great moments in action and emotional moments, and I love the way how this character's story concluded. Again, and that's all I'm going to say without saying who it is. Now, from the trailers and the advertisement, we know that Holly Wheeler, Mike and Nancy's younger sister, is supposed to play a major part this season. I will say that whole section of the season with her character, I really enjoyed. Holly might not be, like, the best character in the world, but she's very interesting. She's definitely very adorable in some of the moments where she would show sympathy towards anyone she cares about. The actress did a fantastic job, and she's also a very courageous and brave girl. And of course, let's talk about Vecna this season. Now, Vecna does not have, in my opinion, as big of a interesting development as he did in season 4. I don't think he's as intimidating or as scary as in season 4, but I still thought he was very intimidating. He's a good villain this season. Not great. I didn't feel like he was as legendary as a villain as he was in the previous season. But Jamie Campbell-Bower did a fantastic job, and without giving too much away, he does let his Henry Creel performance shine through. And again, I won't give away too much. And not everything with Vecna was working for me, but I still liked this villain, and I thought he made a very menacing threat whenever he does get his most intimidating moments that do remind us of season 4. The visuals, for the most part, in my opinion, have definitely raised a lot of extreme, awesome action moments with the visual effects, the locations, the use of, like, different settings were very well done. I do have a little bit of problem with the sets, and I'll get to that later. There's, like, a moment towards the end of this season where you, like, see a shot of, like, inside the Upside Down, but there's more to it than meets the eye. I won't give away too much, but, like, those moments, that setting was very well constructed, and it was definitely a change of pace. I don't think the visuals are as, like, cinematic as season 4, but they still were really good. And talking of visuals is, of course, the action. I think that most of the action scenes were absolutely spectacular as well. I think the action scenes with Hopper is, like, some of his most awesome moments of the entire franchise. I think that whenever the characters are facing, like, scary things or obstacles from the Upside Down, whenever Vecna sends them, is very jaw-dropping and very, like, nerve-wracking to watch. And even though not everything about it was as good as I wanted it to be, I still had a personal, like, enjoyment for the most part with the climax of this season. I thought it was really well done, and for the most part, pretty good. Again, sorry if I'm comparing this season to season 4 so much, it's just that I love season 4. What can I say? I love season 4. And a lot of things this season don't have the same kind of value as season 4 or cinematic awesomeness. But for the most part, I think it's still okay and decent. The score and the music are also fantastic. They bring back lots of themes from the first 4 seasons and bring back many songs from the first 4 seasons, but they also create new ones, especially in episodes 7 and 8, especially during emotional moments between characters that just honestly ate my heart and my ears to the emotional beats that this season provides. And it really made me think more about the emotional impact that the show has had on me many years during my time on this channel. I also had a blast catching on to the many callbacks they make in this season. Many references, many repeated lines that have already been said in the previous seasons of Stranger Things. Just any time that a callback would happen and I would catch on to it, I'd be like, ooh, there it's oh, there it is, and ooh, he said that same thing he said in a previous season. I can't help it, I love catching callbacks to previous seasons. It's kind of fun. And overall, guys, I think that for the most part, not everything, but for the most part, I was pretty satisfied with the way that this whole season concludes. The way that everything was wrapped up, and many of the characters that have got their conclusions, and I like that sometimes it creates a sense of optimism and realism in terms of life. I think that that's pretty good ways of approaching the endings to some of these characters, and the final shot of the season left me pretty satisfied. Again, not all the characters' conclusions I was satisfied with. I think it's mainly one, but most of them I really enjoyed, and I thought that for the most part it gave us a very satisfying finish to a great Netflix series. Okay, now, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. I really wanted to love this season. I really wanted to. And with all the work that went into it, I was hoping it was going to be one of the 2 best seasons of the show. However, I do have problems with this season. I don't hate this season as much as everybody else. I personally really enjoyed this season and have been defending it because I have different opinions that is different from other people's opinions. But I do have some problems with this season, and we're going to delve into it now, which is pretty sad. In my opinion, the biggest thing that I personally wasn't very fond of with this season, and it's the same problem which is the reason why a lot of people didn't really like it, is a lot of the writing. A good chunk of the writing for this season by the Duffer Brothers don't feel like the Duffer Brothers wrote this, and it doesn't feel like that they had any of this planned from the beginning. Of course, I know that the first season of Stranger Things was supposed to be the only season of the Hawkins gang, because Stranger Things was originally supposed to be an anthology series, but they continue on the story, so they did that. But for the last 2 to 3 seasons, it doesn't feel like a lot of stuff that happened this seasons were planned, because I didn't buy that some of the characters were acting this way, because that's not how a character would act in previous seasons. I didn't feel like some of these new ideas that they added, even though they were interesting, I felt like they were kind of added at the last minute. Some of the things they brought back from previous seasons honestly didn't really need to be there, and a lot of the character interactions weren't as engaging as previous seasons. I think most of them are great, but a good chunk of them resort to kind of unfunny lines, which this season's funny. It's very hilarious. It gave many funny moments, but it definitely had some unfunny lines, some weird dialogue from some characters, and loads of arguing. Which then brings me to another problem I have with this season. There are different storylines with characters being with other characters, and I didn't buy that a lot of these characters were as strong as friends or family as they used to, because a good chunk of this season is resorted to characters bickering, arguing, fighting with each other, blaming each other, and ripping into each other. So the relationship between a lot of these characters as a group feels a little bit too mean-spirited, and they did this kind of in season 3, But, I mean, it wasn't the final season in season 3, so I could give that a pass. But this is the final season, and we're watching these characters like constantly arguing about things that don't have anything to do with the main story, and it's like, it brings a lot of things to a halt, and in my opinion, it did get a bit too bitter now and again, because it was kind of hard seeing these characters kind of being mean-spirited as a group. These moments do lead to some emotional moments, like in episode 6 with some of these characters, but like, you're really gonna like have so many of these characters arguing during like the last chapter of the show. In my opinion, it did kind of come off as a kind of a ooh, not that great of an idea. The two character interactions that I honestly didn't have a problem with and thought were really fantastic ideas, without giving too much away, one of them involves Will and Robin. I love this pairing. I love the way they interact, and their ways of like giving each other advice was so heartwarming. It felt like a brother-sister kind of relationship, or a best friend relationship. I love the way that they interact with each other. I bought that they were becoming friends. I thought it was a great idea. Another one involves two characters. I won't give away, but it involves Holly and the character that I said makes a return this season I love. For the most part, I thought that their interaction was great as well. Another major problem that revolves around the writing, that is the same problem that a lot of people have had, especially with other seasons of Stranger Things, is the lack of tension. This show seems to have a case of just not being able to kill characters. And this season, like the first 4 seasons, a lot of people didn't mind because it was like it was building to the big crescendo, which is the final season. But they keep doing it in this season as well. They like have like loads of plot armor with a lot of characters, and it gives them the opportunity to not like just do something that would add some threat to these characters and plot armor. And this season, I'm not gonna lie, it feels like they know that we have a problem with it, and they're doing it on purpose now. They're making it sillier. Like, it's again, I know a lot of people are like, oh, killing characters doesn't bring tension. We don't need killing characters to bring tension. I mean, look at Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Remember, none of the Guardians died in it. I think, like, people had different reactions to that compared to this one, but I think the reason why people were fine with the Guardians one is because they didn't do plot armor that much throughout all the time that the Guardians were in the MCU. But this show had many opportunities at time and time again to do something that would bring tension, maybe kill off a character, maybe make someone totally injured or something. And they do the injury part a few times this season, especially in episode 2, which, great scene in episode 2, definitely brutal. But again, they kind of bewildered the tension of that, and there's no like deadly worriness for a lot of these characters because like everybody's made fun of the plot armor. Like it's the funniest goddamn thing this season. Like it just happens like, oh my god, we're scared. I mean, we know nobody's going to die. We know nobody's going to get seriously injured or nobody's going to have a lasting effect, but we're still scared. Like, that's what the writers are thinking. I'm just like, you can't do it. You can't do it. It's too silly. Yeah, sorry. It's the same problem everybody else has said it. And they do it so much this season. Like, it's the final chapter and they still can't help but just want to add in that plot armor. So, like, yeah, that was really distracting. There are also some character inclusions this season that, in my opinion, weren't needing to be there. Especially with the stuff on Eleven's side of the spectrum. We have this military woman named Dr. K, played by the woman that was in Terminator. I thought she was going to be a very interesting and prominent part of the story, but it turns out that her role in the story was not needed, and I personally felt like she didn't need to be in the season at all, because in my opinion she didn't really make that much of a major impact, and also there was no real clarification about like the end of her character. She's just kind of there, and in my opinion she just kind of felt like this kind of added threat in terms of like the military, because we saw in the promotion and synopsis this season that the military from last season are still after 11, but it wasn't as engaging as it was last season. And also, what happened to that guy, that guy that was already the head of the military from last season? He's already there. Like, what do we need this Dr. K character for? Like, honestly, she didn't need to be in the season at all. Another major problem that I have with Eleven's storyline this season is that they have this idea to bring in a returning character to play a pivotal role in the story, and although I initially thought that the idea when this person showed up was a very took guts thing to do, as we were all questioning whether or not this was going to be included this season, and I'm glad that the Duffer Brothers finally confirmed this. I also felt like that the amount of story that they gave him was either not interesting or not needed, because this character doesn't really do too much. They just brought him in because, oh well, people were going to ask about it, so let's bring it in. And also, when they try to do something with this character, it's either pushed to the side or it kind of ruins a lot of Eleven's story this season, and I didn't like how they approached it. I personally wasn't too fussed about this character, but I mean, of course I didn't think the character was as terrible as everyone else seems to say. And I think that you should address this. You should have some address of where this character has been and why they never showed up in some of the other seasons. I love that they took guts to do that, but the character, in my opinion, didn't need to have as much as focus. I mean, honestly, just addressing it is perfectly fine, and then you could do something with the character, get rid of him a few moments later. But, what they do, giving them a bigger role, in my opinion, makes them pretty annoying to put up with. Or they don't have much to do or shouldn't be included. Or they ruin a lot of the character direction of Eleven. And since I brought that up, let's talk about Eleven, shall we? I honestly didn't really have a problem with most of Eleven's character this season. I mean, the character was tough, courageous. You can tell that she feels the weight of taking Vecna down on her shoulders, so she tries to do her best, and she'll definitely risk her own life to take care of her friends and family. But a few things. First off, I felt like Eleven sometimes can get a little bit too aggravating and too focused on, I have to do this all by myself. I'm the one responsible, none of you are responsible, I'm responsible. No, your friends and family are there for you. You don't have to do everything yourself. And that is kind of like a character progression here, but she doesn't really pay too much attention to that help that she could get from her friends and family, and she's consistently just going, we don't have time for this, I have to do this myself, which honestly just kind of makes her kind of difficult to put up with sometimes. But one of the major things that I'm sure a lot of people have brought up about Eleven's character this season, that it's just a wild whiplash, is Millie Bobby Brown's performance this season. What the heck happened to you, Millie? The first 4 seasons, you were absolutely amazing. I mean, look at that crying moment in episode 2 when you were getting bullied. That was an amazing performance. What the frick? Okay. I don't blame Millie for this. I really don't, because the Duffer Brothers are watching this. The Duffer Brothers need to come in and oh, you need to do something with your character. But her character performance here, for some reason, has turned stiff, robotic, non-convincing, unexpressive for the most part, and dull. She didn't perform as much as she usually does. She's just kind of have a straight face most of the time. Some of her line delivery was a bit off, and it didn't feel like the Eleven I knew, and it just made me think, man, I don't know what happened. The first 4 seasons, she was absolutely flawless as in an acting. I don't know what happened here. Again, I don't blame Millie for this, because Duffer Brothers need to step in and because they're showing direction, but Millie, I felt like you should have kind of added in should have spoken up and said, okay, maybe I could have given a bit more of a better performance. Again, I like Millie Bobby Brown as an actress, and it's not going to change the fact that the first 4 seasons she was amazing in the role. It's just this season, but it's man, it's the final season. We need to have a bit more expression than what we've seen here. The only time I felt like that her performance actually came off as emotionally convincing is towards the end. But even that is a problem, because again, the emotional performance of her towards the end of the story was very well done and was very emotional. But it also resulted in one of the biggest problems I have with Eleven's character. I mentioned earlier that there was mostly that I really loved a lot of the conclusions for most of the characters. There's one that I personally was not the biggest fan of, and that's Eleven's. The way that they concluded her character should work, but it came off as a recycled nature of a character conclusion they gave her in a previous season. It kind of feels like a spit in the face to her coming of age arc with her bond with Mike and her bond with Hopper. And it's also meant to be like this unsure ending of, oh, did this thing happen? Did this thing not happen? And I know a lot of people are fine with it, but I personally wasn't, because like, there should have been something more subtle about this conclusion to be kind of ambiguous, or they should have not done this at all, because in my opinion, it really ruins a lot of Eleven's character for the whole show, because she grew up in this coming of age arc of coming into her own as a person and not listening to a lot of people who call her like monstrous or all that stuff. But this ending kind of undoes that entirely. And in my opinion, it wasn't the right conclusion for Eleven's character. I don't like the Duffer Brothers saying, oh, this was always supposed to be. Yeah, but like the way it was always supposed to be wasn't the right one. So, honestly, I like Eleven's character this season. I thought she's a pretty good character, but I don't think she's as interesting as she usually is. She's pretty annoying. She doesn't get as good acting from Millie Bobby Brown as she usually does. And in my opinion, I feel like they did dirty on my girl for the way that they concluded her. I am so sorry by the way they wrote you, but, you know, you deserve better than the conclusion you got, my lovely. Sorry, that came off a bit weird. I guess one more thing before I wrap up this review, because this is definitely becoming a long video, is you remember how The Dark Knight Rises, that was a major success, and most people loved it, but you had those few people that really did not like it because they can't help but like do a drinking game of the amount of like plot points or plot holes that didn't really make sense in The Dark Knight Rises because there's like so many. That's this one. I honestly knew of a lot of like plot holes that this season had until I wasn't thinking of them, because like on rewatch values I was too busy liking many of the episodes this season. I thought they were fantastic, but I do agree that there are so many things this season where we're just like, what? Huh? Like, what? Like, towards the end, we have this major battle, but like, in terms of the environment of like, where they are, besides like its main conflict, there's no like minions or guards or like monsters to like keep characters from getting to these goals in the final episode. I know people have made that clear. And what really kind of annoyed me with a lot of the plot holes that didn't make sense is because the Duffer Brothers clearly have been answering questions about these plot points or holes, and they come up with either not as interesting answers or answers that should have been answered in this show that you could have just added into the show, but they decided not to because they know that, well, we're just going to say this. We're going to let you decide. We're just going to say this. We don't really know the answer, so we'll just let you decide, audiences. I don't think it should be the audience's responsibility to do the writer's job. So, like, there's so many things that season where we're just, how did that happen? Why did that character do this? This doesn't make sense when you compare to the rest of the show. Like, huh? Like, what's going on here? Now, overall, guys, I know that this is probably a very difficult review to watch or something, because, like, with the amount of problems I had with it, you probably think I don't like the season. But, like, it's just, like, it's so, like, unsure of a season to review, because I do like the season. I like it a lot. There's so many great things about it. There's so many great character moments, so many great emotional moments, so many great things that we love about Stranger Things. Like, it's Stranger Things, guys. I can't say, like, look at my wall, look at my posters, look at my shirt, look at my 11 masks that I made in secondary school. I can't say no to Stranger Things, but at the same time I also can't ignore the many faults that the season has within it. But in my opinion, my enjoyment definitely outweighed the many cons, because like the amount of positives I have are so big and so high that honestly I can kind of overlook them more than the problems. It's still a really great season. There's still great character moments, and they did right by most of the characters. Again, like, they kind of did dirty with Eleven's conclusion. So, but again, I'm not going to spoil it too much. It's just, It will be hard to go back and rewatch the show knowing what happens at the end, but it's still a very fun time. The character's fantastic. And besides 11, I think the closure that they gave the rest of the main characters, it definitely got me like in an emotional moment, because it's just like, oh, I can't believe these characters are done now. They definitely made me happy. If this is really the end of the show, I think for the most part I'd be pretty happy. I mean, we know that it's not over yet. There's that spin-off Stranger Things Tales of 85 coming later this year. But for the most part, this was a very satisfying finish. I really enjoyed it. And I overall enjoyed the absolute hell out of this season. So overall, I'll give the season a 4 out of 5. It's definitely worth watching, that people should definitely check it out. Oh, and I forgot to mention, some of the sets do kind of look a bit obviously setted up and not as realistic as previous seasons. Especially like some moments in the Upside Down. But I still enjoyed the season. I thought it was really good, and I'll see how I rank it amongst seasons when I go back and rewatch it. It's definitely one of the 2 weaker seasons of the show, alongside season 3. But overall, guys, what do you think of the final season of Stranger Things? Do you love it? Do you hate it? And what's the most polarizing final season of a TV show you've ever seen? Let me know in the comment section below. I can't believe that we've come to the end. So honestly, despite many decisions I don't like that the Duffer Brothers made, I still will say from the bottom of my heart to the actors and crew of Stranger Things, I want to say thank you for making the show possible, and I can't wait to see what else some of these actors and creators do after the show ends. You guys just kept me engaged with your Hawkins bond. So anyway, I'm Daniel, reviewing movies, TV shows, and doing videos, and well, I guess we can end it with like the reaction of there's no Jack copyright cameo at all. No Jack copyright cameo at all. No Jack copyright cameo at all.